I understand you used to direct music videos. So is that kind of what gave you the experience to do the kind of like the Tainted Love series?
Mm-hmm. Well, I used to do music videos. I wasn't really directing them as much as I was, you know, dancing in them and all that kind of crazy stuff. That, when I first moved to LA. I mean, Tainted was sort of a different thing. It was more, wanting to create a graphic novel comic book. And some friends of mine were just looking at it thinking, novels don't really mean, printed word anymore. And, with the print business sort of moving away from being the primary way in which people consume media, we thought we'd make one digitally. So we made Tainted, and then Machinima and that gang saw it, and we're like, wow, this would be awesome. Could we sort of launch it and do a soft launch with them? And the rest has sort of been a lot of fun. And then so we're in the middle of the next two iterations that we'll put out on it, but it's pretty much just a action comedy graphic novel.
So another season's coming out of that?
No. So I mean, for us, it's more like when you think of Batman or Iron Man or any of those things, they started off being just print iterations. So we thought rather than do our original print iteration, we did ours in digital. And the next, we're in the movie right now, which Kirsten Morrissey will be producing.
Mm-hmm. I got you. I had one question. I mean, I know back in the day you used to be like roommates with Artie Lange. I was wondering, was it crazy to be his roommate during his crazy times back in the day?
Yeah, I mean, he's written a lot about it in his best-selling book, Too Fat to Fish. But yeah, I think it was a crazy time. MadTV was just a crazy time in general. But I think for Artie, anytime you got around the anniversary of his father's death, he just sort of would start to spiral, and, we were in the middle of shooting at the time. So, it just, it's hard to describe, but, you're sort of dealing with somebody who's battling with a lot of those issues, and they just, came to pass, each time around the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, when he was on the Stern Show, he'd always say how you and him were like buddy. So it's kind of sweet to hear the stories of you and him hanging out, like the positive.
Oh
thing.
Yeah, that's my man. I love him. I mean, I've had the luxury of being able to go do his show a couple of times when I'm in New York as well. I mean, Artie is a great dude, man. I don't know if they get any better, but that's just a tough thing to be going through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like when he was describing you, like he was saying, like you're a pretty clean guy, like you only drink a glass of wine here and there.
Yeah, not necessarily my thing. I mean, the whole cocaine and all that was definitely not my thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, compared to him, 95% of the population is pretty clean. But anyway, that's a whole other story.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, but Artie, one of the funniest, most talented people, I ever met. So I'm happy to see him like clean and just in a totally different state than he was back then,
Mm-hmm. I don't know. This is kind of random, but I mean, did Quincy Jones handpick you for MadTV, or how involved was he in the process?
He was involved in the casting process, certainly. I mean, yeah. I mean, I auditioned for Quincy, and that's how I got on the show, basically. So it was a cool experience, and Q's always been mad cool, so I always called him my little nephew, and I had a crazy audition for him. I think where I would do a bunch of characters, and he was like, "Yeah, I want him," and that was that.
True. I mean, I assume you're a Breaking Bad fan because most people are, but the question is kind of like, I don't know if you've noticed a trend where it's a lot of like comedians and stuff. Now they're doing a lot of like dramatic roles, like that, like Lavelle Crawford is like the bodyguard on Breaking Bad, and like you'll see Bill Burr get a cameo, and like Ahmad Zerbani was in Your Tainted Love thing. So I mean, do you see that as like a trend nowadays?
Not particularly. I mean, I don't. For me, Richard Pryor, Little Lady Sings the Blues, or Tom Hanks, who really started off on Bosom Buddies. I mean, I don't know that that's anything that's particularly new that anybody's doing. I think the rule of thumb generally is that dramatic actors have a very, very difficult time with comedy, but comedic actors generally don't have a very difficult time with drama. That's actually probably the rule more than anything else. But I don't know that it's a trend. I mean, I honestly I think it's a little silly to me on a certain level, because what things are in terms of being dramas or comedies are just marketing tactics. They have nothing to do with the actual artistry of performing. So, how somebody's selling something is one thing, but I don't really know. I mean, Andre Braugher, who is pretty much known as a dramatic actor, is doing Brooklyn Nine-Nine right now, and he's fantastic at it. So, I just think, actors have always been able to do that. Lucille Ball was not a stand-up comedian, yet she's one of the most popular sitcoms in the history of the business. So, I mean, honestly, I think there are 1,000 different examples, but there's not a lot of people who are particularly students of the business, and a lot of people who really appreciate artists in a realm where I would say by and large that's just the way studios market. It has nothing to do with what we do. We live between action and cut.
Mm-hmm. I got you. I subscribe to some YouTube channels where they post a lot of like paparazzi videos and stuff, and occasionally I'll see you in some, like, when you're walking around LA and stuff. And so I was wondering, I mean, is it weird when I don't know how aware you are of the paparazzi out there, but like if in the corner of your eye you see like a paparazzi recording you, and then you see some like fan or friend or somebody like just kind of giving you some over the top exuberant daps and hugs and stuff in front of paparazzi. I mean, is it weird, like fans going crazy in front of you in front of paparazzi?
I mean, not really. I mean, I've sort of been doing the same thing since I was 17, so it just kind of is what it is. The paparazzi thing, I would say, is probably the newer phenomenon. And the obsession with celebrity is probably, something that's new in a realm where there's, 1,000 outlets to put out, this type of content. And I think the real new thing is the erosion of privacy altogether. I mean, that's probably the most prevalent thing. But in terms of like paparazzi, I really don't pay them a whole lot of attention. If they ask a question, I'll answer it. But they really don't have a lot to do with what I do. You know what I mean? For the most part, they just do what they do, and I don't think what they do and what I do are at all related.
You mean you're not a young teen starlet? Okay.
Not even that so much as that I'm either writing or I'm acting, I am in the field of the arts. That's what I've always done. Paparazzi are not particularly in the field of photography in the sense that they are trying to snap a picture that tells a story. They're in the business of trying to snap a picture of a celebrity to be sold to some tabloid magazine. So we're not operating in the same realm. I'm doing what I'm doing not because of anything other than, my desire to tell stories. That's, art is about communication. I don't think that they're trying to communicate anything about the human spirit at all. So, what they do is what they do, but I don't think it's related to what I do at all.
Yeah. No, I got you. And so are you still I assume you're still a vegan or a vegetarian?
I'm very much vegan, vegan raw, back and forth. I'd say about 60-40, 70-30, but yeah, since I was 17, 18. Like,
are you into PETA?
Yeah, PETA, yeah. No, not particularly. Again, I don't think we share the same. I don't see the correlation between Thorne's paint on an old lady and a fur coat and animal rights. I'm a little confused about that, So, and I get that they're very fervent about it, but my mother is probably one of those ladies, and it's just I've never wanted to be involved in an organization who use tactics like that in order to get their message across.
Mm-hmm. True. You ever listen to Howard Stern show or?
Never went on the Howard Stern show. Artie, the thing is that when Artie first tried to, commit suicide, I was the one that called his mother. And, I know he was going through it during, a lot of his time on Stern. And I just, it's my relationship with Artie is a very, very personal one. and I just never wanted to be perceived as taking advantage of him in any way, shape, or form. And, I couldn't be clear about what other people's motivations are, so I just didn't see how coming on the Howard Stern show, talking about it as if it was this hilarious thing, it wasn't comfortable for me, because, telling somebody's mother that they tried to kill themselves and hearing, that tone in their voice was not funny to me. It's cool for Artie to talk about it because it's his life, but it was never cool for me to talk about it that way and be like, ah, ha, ha, what a knee slapper, telling your mom you tried to kill yourself. Yeah, so I never wanted to be a part of it, so I just kind of shied away from it,
Yeah, true that. What comics, like comedic figures, I guess, did you look up to as a kid, and do you look up to currently?
When I was a kid, I think there were a lot of people. I mean, I was always sort of a student of it, so I mean, if you're talking about writers, joke writers, I mean, I always thought, there's Moms Madeley, there was, Charles Grodin, Shelley Berman, Red Fox, let's see, there are, I think a lot, obviously, Pryor, there's a lot of people who I just thought were really funny, but I think I liked the people who dealt with more, for lack of a better word, controversial material. Lenny Bruce, I always thought was, really dope and really interesting. And, now, it's really changed, a lot. I mean, there are a lot of people who I think are funny. I mean, I've written for a bunch of people. I've worked with God knows how many people at this point. So, I don't know that it's a look up thing really at this point, because comedy's changed so dramatically over the course of the last 10, 15 years. But and it depends on if you're talking about stand-ups, of which there are not a lot of stand-ups anymore. But there are a lot more people probably on the comedic actor side than there are people who are touring in the stand-up business, because the stand-up business has changed so much. But there, and the guys who I really think I like a lot of are generally not people that, people would know. They're not famous, but, but I think, Bill Hicks, who some people might know, I thought was brilliant. Mitch Hedberg was, brilliant. But, a lot of those guys didn't reach the sort of fame that, somebody like a Martin Lawrence did.
Yeah. I got you. Talk about your new show on Fox, Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, I think, Sleepy's really interesting to me because I don't think it fits into a genre. And, that's always something that just doesn't come along that often, a show that's a 1 hour that's, in theory people think is going to be super scary, but all, turns out being sort of historical and funny and a lot of other things sort of mixed in there. And, and following a story that's following the Book of Revelations, I think is kind of interesting viewing for an audience, because I just don't. But the show isn't particularly religious. I mean, it's exciting to be a part of something that is really sort of trying to break new ground, and it's been amazingly well received. So that's always, a surprise, because, you work just as hard on the ones that people hate. So, Sleepy's are really a lot of fun, and really cool to see people just, embrace it, so openly, so early on.
Mm-hmm. I got you.
So, yeah, man. So you talked to, I really liked, by the way, the interview you did with my dude from The Wire.
Oh, yeah. Bubbles.
Yeah.
Andre Royo.
Yeah, Andre Royo. That's my man. I mean, him and Wendell Pierce, Wendell's a friend as well. Yeah, I really loved your interview, and I thought, he talked about a lot of different things. I mean, he and I talked about them, and obviously, but it was, it's really surprising to see a show like that, which is, probably one of my favorite show ever, which I still don't believe has really ever gotten its just due, as people, talk about Breaking Bad and these other shows that I think are really wonderful. Like, I like Breaking Bad and all that. I'm, fan of Game of Thrones and whatnot, but, I think for The Wire was really a special show, and it was amazing to me to watch HBO ignore it as long as they did. And it's crazy to me to see, a lot of those actors from Fruitvale Station and other places finally sort of get their just due after being ignored for so long. So I was excited to hear your interview, and I really hope they get that crew of actors together. I don't think there's been that sort of ensemble of African American actors together ever before. And, and it's exciting to be doing Sleepy because I don't think there's been this number of African-American leads or a show that's been this multicultural on network television really ever. So it was exciting to hear that interview, man. Well done.
Oh, I appreciate it. And, I was going to say, speaking of the cast and stuff, it's like, you see the same Wire actors, and then you saw them in Treme, and then you see, like, people that were on Treme on, like, all other shows. So it's like, it's definitely, it's good to see them, jump around to other shows. It's good that they're getting exposure,
It certainly is. But, I also think in some ways, it really is, they're not, they are worthy of their own show and to be leads on shows. So it's sort of annoying to me to watch them, be relegated to guest starring roles or roles that are in essence trying to bring some credibility to somebody else's show rather than people sort of putting them in the position of seeing their extraordinary work on a day-to-day basis, which you frankly are really not seeing. So, for me, I really want to see those guys be able to sort of spread their wings because on so many other shows, that on HBO or Showtime or whatnot, we watch those people go on to become sort of stars in their own right on a lot of bigger shows rather than being relegated to a lot of guest starring roles in order to try and bring credibility to a show that maybe doesn't have it. So, I'm really hoping that changes. But, for me, that is still hands down the best show television has ever produced.
Mm-hmm. No, you make a valid point. And not to like plug my own shit, but yeah, when you get a chance, also check out the Maz Jobrani interview too.
Oh, I did check it out. Maz is my man. I love Maz. Yeah, you did a great job with Maz. And in fact, I really am enjoying your interview series stuff that you're doing. Just sort of having those conversations that way with those guys. Maz is one of those people to me where I look at and go, he's so incredibly successful. Most successful Middle Eastern comedy tour ever with him and Ahmed and such. And it's really funny to hear people. It's weird to me not to see, someone of his talent just, in a lead role, even in film or in television more regularly, because I certainly see other people who, don't have his sort of market share in that position. So I'm really hoping that happens more often because I'm a big Maz Jobrani fan.
Mm-hmm. I appreciate everything you're doing for all these people that we're all both friends / fans of,
For real. Hey, look, everybody comes from somewhere, and I've certainly been blessed and, continue to be. So I ain't mad at it, you know what I mean? Hey, it's Orlando Jones. You're checking out Shabooty.com. I said Shabooty. Not her booty. Shabooty.